Hello again, and welcome to episode 3 of Make the Movie Already. This is Maria Rios, your podcast host, and as you know, or you may not know, this is a podcast for you otherwise busy creatives who can't seem to find the time to finish or start your creative passion projects. Join me on this journey to get it done. So with that, we'll get started. All right, recap time. Let's do a quick recap. Meaning, I guess the meat of what we discussed the last time was the time assessment. Actually, that was the core of the homework, or core of the activities to be done by our next chat. And so here we are. And so how did it go? You'll recall the time assessment was taking some sort of a graphical representation of your week, that kind of illustrates everything that you do in the day, the time that you wake up, time you eat, when you work, when you pick up the kids, everything. And the second part of the assignment was that list of items of the things that you need to do and the things that you want to do. And I have a little bit more to say about that, but not before a full disclosure. So what that means is that I have some things to share about this process. And, so here goes. Last episode, I might have also suggested that we, that I ask our audience for grace. This is a little awkward. Asking the audience for grace, but I don't think there's many folks listening right now. But if you are, here we go. So last time around, I mentioned that I'm learning to both do, podcasting and filmmaking. And so what makes this an interesting project, at least for me, is that I'm kind of testing a lot of hypotheses about my personal practices as a creative person. And so I really do find that podcasting is a way to reinforce or bolster the creative skills I need to get my film done. I won't spend a lot of time on that rationale now, but episode 2 kind of goes over that if you wanted to review that. So here's what I found in doing the assignment, the time assignment for today. I realized that I was spending an inordinate amount of time on the podcast. So it's embarrassing to admit, but it's nonetheless the truth. And so, all right. So, what does this mean, actually? What does this mean? Well, it means that I've spent maybe 17 to 20 hours trying to get this podcast off the ground. And on a weekly basis, on top of a 40-hour-a-week plus job, I think you can already see that this could lead to some trouble. Particularly if the goal is for this to be a sustainable practice, right? A sustainable practice that will allow me to achieve all of my creative goals. So I've gotten some feedback. I do have a team working with me to help me create this project, but also kind of rid me of the perfectionism that's likely causing the amount of time that I'm spending on the podcast. And so, as hard as this is, God, this is so hard because I want to do things in the best way. I want to put my best foot forward, but I'm learning a lot right now, and including my delivery style, which is arguably one of the reasons that I'm spending so much time on the podcast, is actually trying to edit out some of the awkward pauses that I tend to have because I'm kind of new at this. So the advice has been to go ahead and continue podcasting, but to drastically reduce the amount of time spent editing myself. And what this will mean is that there will likely be a marked difference in what you hear starting now, because there's no time like the present to start fixing your issues, right? They've been identified. I'm spending too much time. I'm spending too much time editing. I'm learning as I go. I'm working through a lot of discomfort. But so from here on out, if this podcast sounds a little bit different to you, if the delivery isn't as smooth, if it isn't as quick, just bear with me. But I think I can make it through this. No, actually, no. It's not about thinking I can make it through this. I will make it through this. I'm determined to make it through this in a way that's sustainable. And so if that lands me way outside of my comfort zone, that's what it means to learn. And that's what I'm going to do. And in all honesty, it feels good to learn this way. This is much better than being silent like I was before and not having any output. So again, just bear with me. These podcasts might sound a little bit different moving forward, but I promise I'll get to the point as soon as I am able to. And so there we go. Well, you might notice that I'm trying to wrap up the full disclosure piece, but I think I'll take another minute to just kind of talk more about my process, like some of the changes that I'm making to make this podcasting process more efficient so that I can leave more room for getting my hands dirty in the actual filmmaking, which is my goal. And so I'm trying to be more efficient. And so some of the changes in my practice that I'm putting into place as we speak is I've taken is number one. I've taken a step to streamline how many programs I'm using to develop this podcast. So instead of recording into OBS, which is what I was doing before, I have a reason for that. Won't go into it now. But I'm taking the risk and recording all of this in Adobe Premiere because it's something I'm familiar with. My goal is to eventually land in Audition, and so there's that. I'm also kind of learning to let myself go on the speaking side of things. So I think this is one of the hardest things to do, particularly early on, is to find your voice and delivery style. And I tend to have a lot of pauses when I think, and I kind of really want to streamline everything that I've recorded. So I'm not doing that. I'm just kind of let this go in essentially one take. I'm just not... There are very few takes. I mean, unless I am making absolutely no sense, and there has been that in this process, what you're hearing now is what you're getting. I just really don't have the time. So this will get better over time, I think. But I thought I'd give you a glimpse of some specifics of what's going on behind the curtain so that I keep myself honest and I can kind of put this to rest, at least for this episode. Why do I think we're going to have a full disclosure every episode until I don't know. Until I don't know. But that's how you learn. That's how you learn. So what you're seeing and what I'm doing is learning in real time, learning to make those adjustments so that at the end of the day, you can spend more time doing what you want to do. But, this is the workout of it. And believe you me, I'm sweating right now as we speak. So, all right. Thanks for listening to my full disclosure, and I'm ready to move on. Okay, let's get back to the time assessment. How'd it go for you? How did it go for you? Well, I'll share how it went for me. I'm glad I did this because it kind of lets me know how important it is for me to actually block out my time. This is the first time I've done this in a while, and I missed some opportunities. So, as you can expect, I spent a lot of time working. I have some outside commitments, regular commitments, actually, 2 out of the 5 evenings, Monday through Friday. So this Thursday added another level of commitment. I actually spent that time actually having a little fun, celebrating my birthday. So that was nice. The rest of the time seemed to end kind of late with various and sundry. But pretty much at quitting time, I was pretty exhausted. I was just really tired. I really felt the week. This week, I was able to take some time Friday to recover, but I was pretty much toast. I think about that, and because I say, one thing that's important to include, I think, actually, it's been my experience to kind of take care of myself a little more so that I can be more creative and have more energy to do these things after hours, to, work on projects and, kind of get the tasks, at least some of the tasks or some of the planning, or have some of the meetings, or, whatever it is that you need to do with your projects, mine being filmmaking. So, a lot of teamwork is involved, but a lot of writing, like trying to extract your creative plan, I'll call it that, your storyboard, your, next set of interviews. Filmmaking for me is documentary specific. So, whatever set of tasks that need to happen, whatever set of activities, it was really hard this week. One of my eyes twitching. Like, one of my eyes is twitching right now as as I speak here. So, and I'm actually feeling quite tired now. I'm not 100% myself. So, I'll share with you what was missing. The health piece really was missing from my schedule. If I don't block it in, I am not going to work out. I am not going to drink enough water. I probably won't get enough sleep. I just won't do the basics. The only thing I will do, actually, is eat pretty decently. I've started to, I've actually been progressing on kind of cleaning up my diet, because I've been eating things that frankly don't make me feel good. So it's been fairly easy to really kind of lessen the amount of like unnecessary foods, or foods that just don't agree with my particular system, like sugar and things like that. But yeah, I'm tired. So my creative brain is not where it should be. And I tried to kind of get some things down on paper, and there's a list of items that I have to do, and for the life of me, like after 7 o'clock, I am just toast. So I know what I need to do now to make some adjustments with my time to ensure that I get an opportunity in my schedule to practice self-care, be it meditation, be it whatever it is. Actually probably drinking more water and getting a little bit more exercise. Not a ton, will be helpful to me, because being at 0, I suspect with, some of these healthy habits that I need to build in is sabotaging me. Thankfully, I'm working on minimizing my caffeine, so at least I am, not exceeding my 2 cups, and I am not having anything caffeinated after, noon or anything like that. So, I've have enough energy to take me through the working day, but it just seems that afterward, which is when some of the most important, when it's the opportunity that I should have at least at some point during the 5 working days to do something creative consistently, that I'm feeling too drained to do that at this point, considering all of my commitments. So what's happening is I'm shifting all of that to the weekend. And so now this, since my creative projects do include this podcast, I'm actually feeling pretty good about almost finishing this episode. I think we're nearly there with this episode. But I'm feeling good about it. I'm spending considerably less time working on it. We'll see here pretty soon. So I'll have to include what actually happened and how much time I actually spent on this in next week's episode. But so far, I'm making some good headway. So that's good. So what did I learn? Just as I said before, I think it's critical for me to really build in these wellness practices, at the very least, getting some exercise, like just scheduling in 30 minutes of something, of walking, of something, just regularly, because that's really missing from my schedule. And I actually used to be a gym rat. I love being active, so I miss it, and I might be stressing about not doing it. It just probably is adding to the concerns and to the infinite list that's going on in my head before work, during work, and after. So dealing with the list, dealing with the lingering stress, by taking some time to breathe, and by finally getting my bullet journal will, I think, be helpful. So I will leave it at that. And a note about the accompanying list of jotting down what I need to do in a day and what I want to do. It's huge. It's just huge. And so even thinking about that right now in the state that it's in, I'm just tired. I feel winded. That said, I had some real wins, creatively speaking, before the end of this week. After just admitting that I'm exhausted, I'm actually proud of saying that I've made some creative gains on my project, on my documentary film project. And so this, let me go ahead and share this. I actually dedicated my Saturday to a workshop. It was an all-day workshop, specifically on documentary filmmaking, and I was able to get some answers to long-standing questions that I've had. And it was a great opportunity for networking and to be able to make connections with people who are skilled in areas that I am not. And it turned out to be a really productive day for me in that regard. Part of it was also a feasibility test. I still kind of do ask myself this: am I asking too much by trying to create a documentary film that's particularly challenging to me in some ways? It's a biographical film, and specifically about a writer. And sometimes it can get difficult to make decisions about writing. Like, how do you visualize that? But I was able to come away with a synopsis, not sharing it now, but I feel good about it. I feel good about the work that I've done so far. I feel good about the work that is forthcoming. But right now, it's critical that I get the process, my workflow questions answered, and a system in place that can survive interruptions in production. That's a big deal for me. At any point, I'll have to drop the project to potentially deal with certain family issues or other things. So that's what I'm preparing for, because the more I can build continuity in my creative thought, have that direction, this is what I need and this is how I can achieve it. And if I have to put it down for a couple of weeks and kind of redirect and then come back to it, it will be helpful, tremendously helpful for me to be able to have left enough breadcrumb trails to be able to build upon the progress that I've already made. So right now, my project is in piles all over. It's piles in the computer, piles of, piles of stuff all over my office related to this project. And it's just piles. It's piles in my head. It's piles everywhere. So I'm clearing the way. I'm taking the time to clear the way to really be able to focus in on some of the issues that I've had and really troubleshoot them and resolve them. And come away with a clear artistic direction that I can communicate to others, because it is super clear to me that I'm going to need more help than I thought. I have to rely on my directorial skills, and that's a new one for me. So, was a productive 8 hours or so. And I came away with tangibles, and it was exciting to me to be on similar projects, working on documentaries, and some having similar challenges, and I really needed that. I'm glad the opportunity came up. I'm glad to have participated. It was very useful. So so that was a real win. So on top of completing my weekly podcast episode, I was able to actually work on my project. And so that was a real win for me. So I thought I'd share that, and I'll share more details as we go along. So hopefully all of this is making sense to you in this new format, in this new direction of limiting my editing and limited takes. So bear with me, and thank you for listening so far. So hopefully all of this is making sense to you with this new way of producing this podcast, essentially getting it all done in one take. So if you're still here, I really do appreciate this, and I'm wanting so much to make this worth your while. And with that, before I turn into a pumpkin, because I am in danger of that, particularly after this week, let's take a minute to reflect before we go on to next steps for next week. As I think about this particular episode, I wonder, it may seem to you, it may seem to me that we're spending a lot of time thinking rather than doing. I don't know if this is as a result of, my search for the proper format for this content for this podcast. I have certain expectations, and I want to be able to give you lists and resources and methods on how to get this exactly right. How I want to be useful to you. This approach, talking about assessing our time, having these little assignments, taking the time to understand how we're using our time. And I didn't mention this, which is another important thing to track, but how we feel when we're using our time is a critical exercise. Because when we're working on a creative project, when we're working on a project that is fundamentally important to us as people, I think it's important to not only understand how much time we have to dedicate to it in the course of a busy week, busy month, etc., but it's important to be able to carve out how much quality time we have to be creative and to execute these projects. Because one thing I can tell you this week is that, as I was going through and, at the end of a particularly busy day, I couldn't leave the worry, the list, I couldn't leave the mental clutter behind. That's something that's been kind of tracking with me, in my experience as a professional human this week. And it's, not just this week, those of us with busy lives and depending on what we do professionally or, where we are, how much we have going on, we could conceivably have just a ton, going on in our brains any given moment. So with that going on in my head, with all the clutter, I realized I just couldn't let it go long enough to kind of start fresh. So when I tried to get some of the creative things that I wanted to do, it just, I couldn't get to it. Like, I couldn't make decisions fast enough. I couldn't come up with ideas fast enough. I couldn't learn fast enough to be able to do what I needed to do. And then it just started to get frustrating, and then it started to feel bad. And it's critical for me to avoid that. I want for, my creative project, as special as it is to me, to feel special and to feel pleasurable. And when I'm more rested, when I can feel that I can get to the tasks of my project more easily, I accomplish more, but also feel better about it. And that's important. It's important to retain that joy of doing and that pleasure. And so, there are aspects of filmmaking that are quite tedious. There are aspects that are quite the opposite. I'm in love with the whole process, or else, I wouldn't be plugging away at this, drip by drip for years. This is a practice that I'd like to continue, and it brings me joy. And I'm probably sounding a little bit more animated than I was, because it's something that really does. It adds to my life, and it feeds to other aspects of my life, even to my professional life, to my personal life, because it allows me to infuse more energy, into every aspect of my life. I find it an extremely valuable practice to me. Answers a lot of questions for me, and it just feels good to do. And I haven't even finished the film, and it's not being able to finish things has been just infinitely frustrating. So if you take anything from this, pay attention not only to your time, but pay attention to how you feel, because the whole goal is to be able to add whatever it is that you need to do creatively to your schedule in a way that allows you to really make space for the joy of creation. If we're going for sustainability in terms of practice, then keeping the joy, being able to sustain that joy is just critical. I can't think of any other way to say that. So keep assessing your time, keep wrangling those task lists of, just everything, just inventory, everything that you have going on. Take the time to do that. Take as long as you need to do that. If you need a minute to really, clear your head, if you're not finding that any particular week, just take the time to do that. Show yourself enough grace, because what you're doing is clearing the way forward so that you can truly have your full self and your happiest self working on your creative project, even if it is, an hour a week and 2 hours on the weekend, whatever it is that you can do. So that's something to think about. And I'm sorry if I rambled through that. I might have to edit a little bit more in this final piece to kill out some of these silences. But if you take anything away from that, being able, to really assess your time, how you feel about it, with the goal of making space so that you have quality time, your best focus, where this activity that you're doing, this act of creation, whatever it is, if you're doing a film, if you're writing a book, that it comes from that place of joy. You've got to do that, because if you don't, that frustration can just really shut things down. And I know this from experience. And so continue tracking your time and how you feel. Next week, we will likely be talking more time management, and I'll start to fill you in on my actual project and on the list of items that I need to do with my actual project. And so we will discuss essentially how we're going to start fitting in our creative projects in our schedules. So I'm looking forward to next week. I'm actually also looking forward to sharing more progress with you on the film and my bullet journal. These are all important parts of my process. So I hope that you can take away from my experience something that is helpful to you. And I do look forward to your feedback. And yeah, so I have left myself precious little time to get my socials up still. So those are still pending, but as you know, I'm on YouTube and I'm on Anchor, and you should have a way to reach me there. So please do leave your feedback, comments, questions. I'd love to hear more about your projects. And so, yes, I look forward to having my socials up so we can actually start having a dialogue here. All right. Yes, I am turning into a pumpkin now. So with that, I will let everyone go. And thank you so much for listening. Take care, stay productive, stay creative. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.